right, welcome. Thank you guys for showing up. I know how frigid it can be there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to go through a little quick slide presentation so you know my work and you know a little bit about me. I spent, I don't know, 10 years in Ohio, and I didn't leave until 2015. I got to meet some great folks like Joyce and Jane and uh, Deborah Joyce Dawson as well. So give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen. And you guys can see that?
Yes.
All right. That's just, I'm not giving you the full Stephen Walker presentation because it's long, it's drawn out, it bores me into a stupor. So here's one of my pieces from my time during while I was in Columbus. And of course, things happen. This is another piece. I do a lot of night scenes as well as just traditional landscapes. And while I was in Ohio, something happened. This happened, and it was quite the blessing. We weren't supposed to be able to have kids, but she came along, and I've been great ever since. As a stay-at-home dad, you make it work somehow, some way. Eventually, my wife got tired of the cold and the gray. She wanted to move south and teach. She's a graphic design professor, and so we moved to Valdosta, which she teaches at Valdosta State University. Once we got here, now, side note, I actually came down here and picked out the house without her, and so she didn't see the house until we arrived on moving day. And I had to pick a place that had enough room to build a studio. So here's the studio build. This is my long commute, about 20 feet off of the house. And this is the inside. It's a modest 600 square foot studio, nice lighting. This is where I spend most of my days. So getting back to the work, here's a few pieces from Oil Painters of America, a few local pieces that I sold at some of the galleries here. So you can tell this isn't Ohio anymore. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what that is. That's a combine for harvesting crops. This one's about 32 by 48. I have a Zephyr series. Zephyr means gentle breeze, in which I do a lot of cloudscapes. So I definitely want to get down to business, but I know it always helps to be able to see the artist's work before he starts spewing off his opinion. This one's at one of my galleries, Principal Gallery in Alexandria, Virginia. Again, more night scenes. This one got me into Oil Painters of America show. This is actually a scene in Ohio, in Westerville, near my old mechanics place. This particular barn has no location, as it was completely made up from about 20 different photos. People always ask me, where is that? I can't even tell them. Then I started entering plein air events. I I can answer one of the questions right now. I do not enjoy plein air. It is it is frustrating. It is really frustrating. I enjoy plein air when it's just me doing it, I guess, but the competitions can be very stressful. Uh, Oddly enough, my second competition, I actually won the judges award for Olmsted Invitational in Atlanta. And sometimes I'll do some still lifes and personal projects, um, which is a series of glasses that if you go to my website, you'll see a series of those. So this is a little bit easier because I can compose whatever I want as opposed to a landscape. You kind of, a lot of times you have to take what's given to you. These are my bosses, the crew, the Motley crew, and that's who I work for. Recently, I got a signature status in the Oil Painters of America, um, which at the time I didn't know was a big deal, but I've been told it's a big deal. And this isn't correct. I'm sorry, it's a little outdated, but these at one point I was represented by all of these galleries, and so I cut it down to I think 7 or 8 instead of what was that 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, and that's that. Um, let's see. Should we just get down to the questions?
Yes. And the people who are here in person,
Yeah.
Dawn Patrill,
Okay.
Beth Goldie,
Uh-huh.
Brenda Lloyd, Jane Llewellyn, and Linda Hall. And we're going to give priority to people who are here for their questions. So after
Yeah.
these are done, then you guys can ask.
Okay. I'll start with Dawn. She asked, I am interested in how he conducts his social media and how often does he do them, any strategy he has for them, what kind of posts seem to work for me. Um, for the most part, when I initially started social media, I would just post an image and leave it at that. That didn't work as much as well as my strategy now is that I post things and along with them, there's not only an explanation, but there's a story or how I'm actually doing. So I find that complete honesty, people really resonate with that as opposed to me giving them the kind of fluff answer. I was inspired by light and this really moved me and all that good stuff. Well, tell me about the bad things and the struggles as well. So a lot of times I put it out there, good or bad. And I find that collectors and other artists really feel like they get to know you much better. Not just posting when you something good happened. Um, I only post probably maybe once a week, maybe, and it just depends on how busy I am because I'm more about getting the work out there to the galleries and things like that instead of worrying about how many likes I have or stuff like that. Because it's a lot to keep up with, and I'm sure you know that. It really it does help. It does help because I'm in South Georgia and I don't have a lot of reach here. So social media gets me out to connect with folks in Ohio, folks in Virginia, and everywhere else I have galleries. So it is important, but it doesn't run my life. Let's see. Also, is there any other forms of marketing he does for his business? I will take out an ad in a magazine every now and then, but it'll only be based on what my goal is. So if I have a show in Richmond, Virginia, or in Columbus, Ohio, I'll take out an ad locally more so than nationally. But if it's just, I'm trying to get the attention of some galleries so that they call me, I'll do a national publication like Southwest Art Magazine, American Art Collector, Plein Air Magazine, and so on. I hope that answers the question for Dawn. Next up, we have, is Bev there?
Yes.
Okay. What have my best sources of sales been from? Gallery shows, former students, festivals, or folks who have seen his work online? I would probably say my galleries and the work online has been my real calling card as far as like sales. Just because former students are usually, they may buy from me or buy a demo, but not as often because I don't teach as often. And I don't do any festivals. I'll do the occasional plein air competition, but I don't do any festivals. I just find that my price point is too high to for that kind of venue. Let's see. Yeah, the galleries work for me because I continuously keep them as a relationship. So I'm constantly calling them, not calling them to bug them, but calling them just to check in and see what I can do to help them help me. Let's see. Brenda Lloyd. On pricing work, how does that increase or decrease according to size? If I were smart early on, I would have just had my pricing based on square inch as opposed to I would now, well, starting out, I just picked random numbers that were comparable to other artists that I saw that I felt like we were in the same range as far as talent as well as presentation. So I just set up something by standard size. So 8x10s, 11x14s, 18x24s, and anything in between that, I would just change it a little bit. But I would recommend if you can do it by the square inch and just multiply, the total square inch by, pick a number that kind of works for your sizes as well as your time. I think the big part of pricing is it's unfortunately it's individual because for myself, it may only take me an hour, two, maybe five to finish a painting, while somebody else, it may take them 2-3 days to finish a painting. And we can't price ours the same. Although even if the quality is the same, it would be unfair to that person to just bring their price down lower to fit, because then they're losing money while they're working for days. I have a friend named Robert. He does a lot of wildlife drawings and paintings, and it takes him forever, quite frankly. It might take him a couple of weeks to finish a painting, but when he finishes it, it is golden. While me, it might take me a portion of the time. So he has to account for the weeks that he spends on a piece versus me spending the hours that I spend on a piece. With pricing, it also depends on what you want to get out of your end game. So a lot of times I'll price things, and I'm consistent about pricing. So if the gallery has a price, it's the same for an individual. So it doesn't matter one way or the other, because I'm not going to say, okay, it's 5,000 at the gallery, but if you want to buy it directly from me, it's only 2,000. That is a good way to get you banned from the gallery, because you're undermining the gallery. If you're not with the gallery, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But again, people talk. So, I'd hate for you to have two people that bought an 18 by 24 from you and they have different prices. You might say, okay, well, I like this painting a lot better, so I marked it up higher. Well, it just depends on how much higher. You can kind of play around within that 10 to 15% range, but once you start doubling prices, then it becomes a little more iffy. As
Stephen,
far as
Brenda
yes,
Lloyd also want to know how to price commissions.
yes, I have that here. As far as commissions, I don't do a lot of commissions, but when I do, I mark them up about 10 to 15%. Because, as most of you know, if you've ever done a commission, it is probably not going to go smoothly. It's going to be, you're going to have to make changes that you probably didn't want to make in the beginning. So you have to, I kind of take that 10 to 15% as my pain and suffering commission there, or bonus, I should say. And I mean, that's just how I do it. But when dealing with commissions, I also try to take 50% upfront, so that, especially from individuals, if you're doing from a business, this might not be as necessary, but if you're dealing with individuals, get 50% upfront. And that way they're serious about the commission. Because if you just say, okay, I'll do it for you, and you finish it, and then they say, oh, I had to do some repairs on the house, I can't pay you. And now you're just out of time and you have a piece that you probably don't want for yourself anyway. All right. I hope that covered that for Brenda. I'm sure we can talk about pricing like all day, because I have plenty of crazy stories from friends and whatnot. All right. Next up, I have Jane. When you are unmotivated, avoid, or procrastinating about painting, how do you get back to it? I cry for about an hour, and then no, I don't. I have an inspiration folder and on my Google Drive, and it's just a bunch of screenshots and downloads from people that I really admire their work. Even if it doesn't pertain to me, it might spark something. So it might be a portrait that somebody painted. I don't do portraits anymore, but it's something that would definitely spark interest in me just getting back to the actual activity of painting, as opposed to just sitting around waiting for something to spark. I come in and paint just about every day, unless I'm doing other business matters such as packing and shipping and photographing artwork and so on. Many of us are our own harshest critics. How do you handle your self-criticism that is too harsh or unrealistic? I talk to my wife a lot, and she gives me a pass on a lot of things. But I think being my harshest critic, in a way, honestly, has helped me. Not let my standard for my paintings go down, as opposed to, they can always go up, great, but I also give myself a little break though at the same time, and I'll just say, okay, I did the best I could for what time and effort I had in me. If you were given a bad reference and you do a bad painting, that's not on you. If you only have 5 hours to finish a painting for whatever reason, but you need 10, that's not on you. Give yourself a break sometimes and know that, okay, you did the best you could with what you had. And that's something that my parents used to say about me. We did the best we could with what we had. I was like, okay. But that's a story for a whole nother day. Next up, I think we have Linda Hall.
Yep.
The issue of selling work has so many variables. Commission is one issue, and we can adjust the price. Taxes are another. Profit, state, local, income tax, personal gain, and the issue of business. Okay. Question a little confusing, but I think I understand some of it. There's a lot of business that goes along with this. And honestly, for some of these questions in terms of legal business, I would consult an accountant first, because those laws change every year. And so when I was in Ohio, and currently while I'm here, I have an accountant who is used to working with artists and independent contractors. And that's what you really want to find, is somebody that's used to working with artists or independent contractors, because then they can give you some of those loopholes and not discounts, but write-offs that you might not have thought about or considered for your business. I had one accountant that was not used to working with artists and just went about managing my account based on everybody else, and I ended up owing quite a bit of money because he did not take into account some of my deductions and things like that, and some of the laws that pertain to me. Answering another question that I think I saw was, does a Ohio artist need a vendor's license? It depends on what you're doing. If you're selling through the galleries, you really don't. But if you're selling via festival or market, you do. And I believe that I read that Ohio is like, I think you only need a one-time vendor's license that you pay maybe $25 for. It just depends on the county or the city. Again, I would consult an accountant for that, just to make sure, because I'm not in the state anymore. So it may have changed. Let's see.
I would open it up to the audience.
Oh, sure.
I'll walk around with my phone.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
And I'll let you talk on my phone.
The art accountant that you used, would you recommend them to us?
Sure. I'm going to have to go back and figure out who that was for Ohio. That's been, I don't know, 8 years now. But something tells me, I want to say the name is Pusateri. Pusteria. But don't quote me on that. I will get that information to Jane, for sure.
Anybody else have a question? Oh, Diane Ruck.
Okay. Yes. But it depends on what shows they are. And so I don't enter any festivals, but I'll enter Plein Air Salon, Plein Air Magazines. That's Plein Air Magazine's competition, and they do a great job of promoting it. Oil Painters of America. I may enter National Oil and Acrylics Society. Was at Nopus, I think. What else? Richardson 75, which is a national one in Wisconsin. So yeah, I do enter a lot of competitions. But even now, this month, I've been working on nothing but competition pieces. So these are pieces that I'm going to keep, hold on, and just enter them in competition. Some of them are online, which is great. That means I don't have to ship them or do anything like that, which means I can also use them for other competitions. So I try to be strategic in having stuff that's for competitions versus for the galleries.
Anybody else?
Brenda's got another one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have another one on sizing and pricing.
yeah.
If you have a much larger painting, do you adjust the size, the price per inch on that?
Yes, yes, I should have said that, but yes, you do, because you're going to find that once you just do the math on with one set price and start doing the math on that, you'll find that your large pieces are just going to be ridiculously too much. So a lot of times I'll do a range between, you know, your 5x7s to your 11x14s with one set number for multiplying, and then from 11x14 or 12x12 up to, I don't know, 24x30, and then everything else up and above. So people usually get a better deal on the larger pieces as opposed to the smaller pieces once you do the math.
Anybody else?
Oh, we're at the end.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey,
When you do commission
Commission
pieces,
pieces, and you're talking about taking a deposit, is it a refundable deposit?
it's non-refundable once I start the actual painting. So if they stop me before, you know, maybe I've just gone out and bought the materials and things like that, and or if they stop me before that, they'll get their money back.
you don't deduct them, you don't deduct
You don't have the material, then, but you'll use them elsewhere probably.
I probably will use them elsewhere anyway. It just depends on, you know, how specific the project is, you know, and I'll be upfront with that. If they tell, because I had one lady who wanted a 23x35 painting on canvas, and that's not a standard size. So I told her that, you know, this is your chance to back out, because once I hit buy for the stretcher bars and the canvas, you're in the hole for that amount of money. I'll give you the rest back, but I won't give you back the cost for those specific materials.
No, I can't remember, so it'll come back.
This is Don Petrill.
Yes.
Do you do shows of your work? Do you do gallery shows, or do you seek other kinds of shows?
I do a lot of gallery shows, solo and group shows, but I also do the occasional. Like later this year, I have a show at a local community college, and a couple of art centers that are more local. But I find that doing those, you have to ask yourself why you're doing them. Are you doing them for exposure? Because the sales probably won't be there. I can't, the likelihood that I'm going to sell anything through a community college gallery show is very unlikely. But it does allow me to get my name out there, as well as in that particular area, as well as invite people that may be interested in seeing my work in person. So it does offer that.
Anybody else? Oh, Dean,
Do you do your own framing or do you get it from a company?
Do you mean, do I make my own frames?
Yes.
No, I do not make my own frames. That is a whole business I don't want to get into. So, so I order my frames. I have like maybe four or five go-to companies that I use, as well as a local framer in case I need something really specific, or I don't feel comfortable with doing myself. Some of those companies are laframe.com, Frankenframes, King of Frames, Florida Frames, and sometimes I'll use some of the floaters and plein air frames that they have at Jerry's Artorama. And of course, like I said, I have a local framer who I use. But usually using a local framer means you're going to pay a little bit more than what you would if you framed it yourself. Once you have the frame and glass and mat and all that stuff. So Franken Frames actually will cut mats, as well as just the frames and the glass and stuff like that. So that makes life a little bit easier for me.
Goldie has a question. That was my question. Oh, right.
What medium is matted work? What medium is your work
That you met.
I will still paint oil. A lot of times it's oil on paper. And it's okay to, frame oil under glass, as long as it's had a chance to cure before you actually put it under glass. It's not as impressive though, I'll be honest.
Ruth Ann remembered a
Right.
question. So so when you do, you have a commission, do you do a written contract? Or is it
Yes.
just verbal? Oh, you do.
I try to have a written contract, or at least have something in an email that confirms what we've talked about and discussed.
Thank you.
Because I really don't want to get into he said, she said, and that's not what I meant. I try to be really clear about things ahead of time.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, other people had emailed in questions, so do you want to keep going, or you
Sure.
Tired of us.
No, I'm good. I just want to make sure I got to everybody. Let's see. I know Deborah Joyce Dawson had a question about my goals that I set forward in my career. It is important to have goals, and I have different goals every year depending on where I'm at. Like this year, my goal is to do more traveling and take more reference to in places that I wouldn't normally go. So I'm going to go out west. I have a few plein air competitions that I've agreed to already. So that'll allow me to get reference in those areas and be able to paint more. Other actual goals would probably be to add on maybe one more gallery to my resume right now, or to my list, I should say. But we'll see if I come across the right one. Dealing with the gallery is about finding the right fit, and I hate to repeat myself, but it's the best example I have. Dealing with galleries is like having a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You want both sides to be happy. You don't want one side to just be very happy with the other. And, then it's a one-sided relationship, and that's not good. Let's see. Who did I not go? Oh, Deborah again. Do I have a mentor or some artist that I go to when I'm stuck? I have a bunch of friends that are very honest but also gentle with their opinions as far as my work. But my main mentor / go-to artist is my wife. I trust her. She's seen a lot of my work, and I trust her opinion, and she knows when I'm not like putting my full potential into a piece, and she'll call me out on it. Let's see. I know Deborah had more. Do I sell work on social media? If so, which platform was most successful for me? I would probably say Instagram is probably the most successful. It's a matter of making sure that you put out there that the work is for sale. Do we have a question out there, Jane?
No,
Okay.
I just didn't want the phone microphone to be near the computer.
Oh, okay.
microphone.
Okay. How much time do I spend on marketing and social media and bookkeeping? That kind of stuff I do here and there, so I don't have a designated time that I do that. It just depends on what's coming up in my life and or career, and making sure that I don't forget that it is a business and I can do, if I have a show coming up, I can do all the paintings and all that stuff. But if I didn't do the promotional materials, then it's probably not going to be a successful show. So I have to put in as much time sometimes as the painting into social media and marketing. Do I ever feel like I repeat myself or my ideas or okay, hold on. Does he ever feel like he repeats himself or where do his ideas / inspiration come from? A lot of times my inspiration comes from road trips. Like I said, I take purposeful road trips and flights to get reference. I have on occasion felt like, okay, I'm doing this thing over and over again, especially when galleries find success or you find your own success and say, one painting and people really, you could have sold that painting 5 times. That may bore you at some point. I've had a gentleman who took one of my classes. He did a great painting and he sold it. And then like the next 4 paintings he did were of the exact same thing, which I thought was kind of a problem. Sorry, we going out, in and out?
It says my battery is running low,
Oh,
Okay.
and I don't know.
I think I've got it.
got it plugged in, so I don't.
I'll keep going though. What makes his work unique? I have no idea. But people really like the light that I use and the color palette that I use. So I just keep going with it. I'm doing something right. You'd have to ask somebody that likes my work. I mean, I'm doing it. I'm kind of in a bubble. How important have awards been to his career, and how important have the plein air events become? And I already answered, do I enjoy them? Awards are huge because they in a way give you a little bit of validation for other folks once they see you started winning things, and in order to win stuff, you have to put the work out there. So if you don't put it out there, you're not going to win anything. That's, kind of like the lotto, if you can't win it if you're not in it. Plein air events have been really big for me as far as and that's why I do them, in order to get my name out there in different parts of the country. I can put out ads, I can make phone calls, I can, do a lot of different things. But once somebody meets you out in the field while you're painting and gets to know you and sees that you're actually making the work right there, it changes things and it resonates with people, and they really, feel like they have a connection to the work as well as the artist. Now, if you're out there and you're not a people person, you may want to get somewhere where you're not going to be followed by people, because you don't want someone thinking, oh, I love their work, but they are not for me. How important are professional organizations and national exhibitions? They're also, again, creating a connection between other artists as well as other collectors is really important. So, as much as I'd like to say, I'd like to just stay in my studio for the time now, I can't. I have to get out. I have to put the work out there. I have to put myself out there. And that's the only way that my career is going to advance. I think if I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and I think if I stayed there that my career would be nowhere near what it is now. Just making the move to Ohio kind of made me start over and look at things from an outsider's point of view and figure out how to get my career going, because I had a gallery in Richmond and that was my only gallery starting out. So once I moved to Ohio, I got with another gallery, but I also joined organizations that were local. And that's how, I met other people. I also started teaching at the McConnell Art Center. So that changed things a lot too. But I also made trips to see family in Nashville, and therefore I'm making a drive from Columbus to Nashville. Then I'm going to stop in Louisville and have a gallery there. It just, I'm very strategic about the things that I do and the moves that I make. And not to say that I don't want to visit family, but I'm also going to visit family and do a little work while I'm there. Let's see. Soon working in the gallery, should contact the gallery, door open. How important does he feel the plein air movement has been to his career? And she had same question. What type of shipping boxes does he use? Who does his framing? What is the length of his workday? I'll either make a crate for some paintings, or I'll just use boxes that I'll get from Uline. I don't want anything flimsy. As far as shipping, I'm always thinking, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I've had the worst things happen to some of my paintings, like a forklift going through the box. There's nothing you can do about that except just shrug your shoulders and repaint the painting. With that in mind, I do insure my paintings, but I don't insure them through FedEx or UPS. There's no point, because they're not going to pay you. They'll reimburse you for the frame, glass, anything that they can physically buy again. They will not reimburse you for your painting, because it's such a arbitrary thing as far as pricing. And so I use Ship and Insure, which is a company that deals with artists, and they'll ask you to become a member of some collectors organization, and that basically gives you validation that you are an artist and this is the market value for your work. And so they will insure the piece through FedEx or through UPS or whatever. And if something happens, then you can get paid for what you put into your work. What is the length of my workday? My workday is usually from about 8 o'clock to 3 p.m. And then I'm still working when I go inside the house. From like 4 to 5, I'll just be on my computer, catching up with either emails or social media. So I guess I do have a time that I concentrate on that stuff. But I don't think about it. It's just natural at this point. But the day is it's not 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. of painting. It might be any number of things from, like I said, shipping, boxing up paintings, varnishing pieces, framing them, you name it, I'm doing it, taking out the trash. It's all encompassed, because I am the business. Did I get that? Oh, please.
So how do you keep track of your paintings, your
Inventory, what you've sold.
Okay. Oh, that's a great question. I used to have a spreadsheet, and I probably need to get one back, or develop one again. But right now I have, no painting leaves the studio without a photograph. And when I photograph it, I bring it into my computer, and I change the file name, which has my last name, first name, title of the painting. It's a really long file name. Title of the painting, size, and price. all within the file name, so that when I send that off to galleries, they don't have to ask me what's the information. All the information's in the file name. Then I take that same file and I put it into a folder marked whatever gallery that is. And so I'll take the photo of the painting, bring it in the computer, put it in that folder, and then within that folder, I have another sold folder for that gallery. And if it sells, I then just move it to that folder. And it's worked for me because sometimes the gallery will say, well, I have this painting, I can describe it, but it doesn't have a label on it for some reason. It came off, and they can take a picture of it, and I can find it pretty easily.
Jean Langkamp has another.
Okay.
It's a comment. It's a comment.
Oh, we don't take those.
Too bad, you're getting it anyway. I really enjoy seeing your pictures on
On
Facebook.
Facebook.
Uh-huh.
You can always learn from other artists about shadow, light, and
And
different things.
different things, I think,
I love it anyway, and I always try to make a comment or a like.
or a lot.
Well, thank you. Any more of those comments? I like those.
Speaking of your work on Facebook.
You show, I think it was the end of last year, was a lot.
I mean, overall, all the paintings just glowed this golden. Yeah. And I think it was like the end of last year, maybe.
Yeah.
You always try to go with a theme for a solo show.
Typically, yes. It makes things much more cohesive.
Right.
Whether, gosh, I mean, even if I did a show with landscapes and night scenes and drinks, I'd probably try to tie them in based on maybe their framing, but usually I go with a theme. So the show at the community college in Tallahassee coming up and later this year is going to be all drinks. So I'm just building up a collection of drink paintings that I'm going to have. And then after that show, I've already planned to send those pieces to the galleries that represent me.
And that was similar to, when you had a show here at Sharon Weiss this past year.
Yes,
All drinks,
yes, that was all.
that was cool too.
I'm on a roll. Are you doing any more trips with artists, like we went to Ireland?
Am I going to do more trips?
Yeah,
I'm going to
workshops.
like I'm talking with the lady about doing one in Scotland. I just recently, last September, I took a trip to Italy and took about, I don't know, I think 6 students with me, which was really a nice trip. But I'm doing less teaching this year probably than I normally would, just to concentrate on my work. It's a lot of travel to leave the house and basically leave my wife and say, okay, take care of my daughter for, this many days. I'll just be gone off painting. We try to balance that stuff, but she also understands that I'm not off just going to have a good time. I'm actually working.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any floor ones anymore. Are there any written sheet?
Let's see. Gosh, I don't think so. I mean, let's see. I mean, a lot of the stuff, like I said, is more so for an accountant to be able to answer. I think Linda had a couple that was more specific for an accountant than myself, because I'm so far removed from what laws and guidelines are in Ohio that I would hate to give the wrong information.
Brenda Boyd has another question.
Uh-huh.
I have a question about being in a gallery with your people that are your collectors. Do you reach out to them with like thank you notes, things like that personally, or is that more of a gallery thing to do?
If you have the contact of that collector, I would go ahead and write a thank you. Now, personally, I can't and really haven't written many thank you letters because a lot of times the galleries don't give me that information. There are most of them are really like close to the vest with that information. Some galleries will give you that information, and if they do, it's always nice, especially if you're starting out, to send them a thank you. Nothing lengthy, just something that says you appreciate their patronage.
That has fun. So if somebody does contact you, you know that they had already purchased through the gallery. How does that work?
Ooh, that's hard. All right. So okay. So if they purchase from the gallery, more than likely they didn't know you prior to seeing your work at the gallery. So that is then the gallery's client. So what I typically do, because sometimes the collectors will contact me directly and want to buy from me directly, and I will pump the brakes on that and give the gallery a call first and say, is this your client? And if it is, then you have that understanding that, okay, I'm going to work with them, but I'm still going to give the gallery their commission, because once you just take it from them, there's going to be some hurt feelings there. Because then you're basically stealing from the gallery's efforts that started out, if that makes any sense.
Anybody else? You got any more on your sheet, Stephen?
I don't think so. I'm looking. Let's see. No, I mean, a lot of it's, I mean, we talked about pricing, but are there any other questions on that?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay.
Well, we thank you for your time and your generosity, and you are professional of professionals. You're stellar in all your aspects, so thank you for your time.
No problem. Been my pleasure.